QMC today. I'd like to invite the Prime Minister Malcolm Turnbull to the stage. He became the 29th Prime Minister of Australia in September 2015 and was sworn in for a second term in July 2016. He was first elected to the Australian Parliament in 2004. In 17 days' time, his government faces the first major test of public opinion since the 2016 federal election, with the Super Saturday of 5 by-elections across 4 states, including Longman, just north of Brisbane. Please welcome Prime Minister Malcolm Turnbull to the stage.
Well, thank you very much, Mark. It's great to be here, back in Brisbane. I'm delighted to be here at the guest of the Media Club, and I want to acknowledge Opposition Leader Deb Frecklington and the Lord Mayor Graham Quirk and all of my parliamentary colleagues who are all here with us today. And before I move on to energy, can I just say, as I've conveyed to them directly today already, our congratulations, our admiration to the Australian divers, doctors who played such an important role in rescuing those boys from the cave in Thailand. It's one of the most heroic and inspiring episodes of our times, really. It's hard to imagine anything more frightening than being trapped underground in the dark, let alone having your children trapped underground in the dark, and the courage of those men and women who effected that rescue, the Thai Navy SEALs, the British divers, the Australian divers and doctors. Of course, we acknowledge Dr. Richard Harris from Adelaide, who played such an important role, but the whole team from the AFP, Department of Foreign Affairs and Trade, from the Australian Defence Force. They work together with their international partners in a way that is an inspiration to all of us. So I want to thank them on behalf of a very, very grateful nation. Now, my single clear-eyed focus is to reduce the cost of energy for Australians. Too much ideology and even idiocy has taken the place of engineering and economics, and energy consumers have suffered accordingly. Corners were cut in the process of injecting competition in what used to be state-run enterprises, undermining the long-term benefits that competition could bring. Electricity networks were encouraged by government regulation to be gold-plated, and so they were, and the consumer had to pay. Interventions in the national energy market, most significantly force-feeding of renewables into the market without any thought for firming or storage, distorted price signals. Federal and Queensland Labor governments allowed gas to be exported from the East Coast, and despite warnings that this would result in gas shortages for domestic customers, did nothing to protect the domestic market. Retailers created confusing and opaque pricing. Discounts were concocted off inflated standing offers, with one mistake: a pay-on-time discount turned into a punitive, unfair, late penalty. Consumers and businesses suffered. Now, my approach has been to bring a businessman's hard-headed attitude to problem solving. And here the problem is clear. Energy is too expensive. And the measure of any proposed solution is equally clear. Will it help reduce energy prices? So the answer is not one fuel type or another, and those who place some sort of moral or magical quality on a particular type of machine miss the point. The answer does not lie in mandating a wind turbine on every corner, a solar farm in every suburb, or a new coal-fired power station in every region tomorrow. The starting point for lower prices today is a competitive, consumer-focused market. Dispatchable energy, firmed energy, can be delivered by a wider range of technologies than ever before. Let them compete, and may the cheapest solutions win, as they will if we let the market work. We want the consumers to win. They must be the winners. That's whose interests we're looking after. Now, the market will find the most efficient price using the different features of different types of generation. baseload or flexible, centralised or distributed, and so on. We don't have to make a technological choice. We must create the framework to deliver the cheapest mix of power. Now, prices are starting to fall. Energy companies are having to work harder to attract and retain their customers, and the uncertainty over investment is dissipating. Over the past year, there have been 1 million sessions on the energymadeeasy.gov.au comparator site. And through this and our other actions with retailers, over 400,000 families and small businesses have switched plans and saved hundreds of dollars a year. Last year, I told the story of Christine da Costa, a single mother with 4 children living in Brisbane. She used the Energy Made Easy website of the federal government. She found a better deal that'll save her $300 a year. According to the Australian Energy Markets Commission, a residential customer in southeast Queensland can knock $504 off their power bill by moving from a median standing offer to the cheapest market offer. On top of that, here in Queensland, reductions in prices that came into effect from the beginning of the month mean a family takeaway shop owner can now save between $400 and $770, depending on their supplier, a hairdresser between $129, $243, a real estate agent between $137 and $258. Now, we've acted to increase gas supply. As you know, some of the gas companies here in the room will know in a fairly heavy-handed way, particularly for a Liberal Prime Minister, but we've done that. We've helped accelerate gas projects and reform the regulation of pipelines. Wholesale gas prices have halved over the last 18 months. Between 2007 and 2017, electricity prices, on the other hand, had a compound annual growth rate of 8%, even with the fall in prices after we repealed the carbon tax. Now, electricity charges are made up chiefly of the cost of generating power from coal, gas, wind, solar, hydro, also known as wholesale costs, the cost of the poles and wires that deliver electricity across the nation, or network costs, green schemes of various types, there are quite a few, and the cost of the retailer who sells the power, the retail costs. The contribution of those drivers differ from state to state. But according to the ACCC, across the national electricity market, over the last decade, increases in network costs, that's the poles and wires, have contributed 38% to those price increases, followed by wholesale generation costs another 27%. And that element was felt most recently with the hasty closure of large baseload generators, particularly Northern in South Australia and Hazelwood in Victoria. Wholesale prices in 2016-17 increased dramatically with tighter supply. Reliability suffered, most noticeably in South Australia, where their reckless reliance on renewables without storage or firming capacity left their system vulnerable. What were they thinking? What was that Labor government thinking? Had it not occurred to them that the sun doesn't shine all the time and the wind doesn't blow all the time? Apparently no thought at all, except a long extension cord to the Latrobe Valley. The sudden exit of large thermal generators heightened the risk of costly blackouts, and we saw that on 28 September 2016, where electricity supply in South Australia was lost for hours in the east of the state and weeks in the west, where strong export industries, including fishing, agriculture, mining, were left stranded. And at the heart of the problem was a failure to integrate energy and climate policy, a failure we are correcting with the National Energy Guarantee and at a ministerial level, for example, by combining energy and environment in the same portfolio. So Josh Frydenberg is the Minister for Energy and Environment. Now, the structure of the renewable energy target imposed a subsidy separate to the price signals of the energy market. Prices went up, but new investments in reliability did not. Labor ignored reliability and the importance of dispatchable power, and so price volatility drove outcomes. The system was compromised as investment signals were distorted. There was also an increase in the size of firms that both generated and sold electricity, vertical integration, and to be blunt, some in the sector took advantage of their strong positions, using the cover of uncertainty to take advantage of consumers. Now, last year, as you know, I secured agreement from the energy retailers on measures to put downward pressure on electricity prices, including contacting nearly 1.6 million households to offer a better, cheaper deal on their power bills. Now, as part of this consumer-first approach, putting the customer first, all the business people here in the room will understand the wisdom of that, in March 2017 we commissioned the ACCC to conduct a thorough root and branch review into retail energy markets, to examine the behaviour of the sector and find the solutions that would lead to lower prices. That's what this is all about, lower electricity prices. That's what we're seeking to achieve. Now, we received the report on the 30th of June and it's been released today. I want to thank the Chairman, Rod Sims, and his team for their characteristically comprehensive and careful analysis. Their assessment is blunt. Markets have not worked well for consumers. The national electricity market needs to be reset, and essential to that reset is the implementation of the National Energy Guarantee. Unnecessary costs need to be removed. A greater focus is needed on low-income households. Competition is needed to combat market concentration, and more direct policing is required to prevent market manipulation. The national electricity market can be restored to an efficient, fair and competitive market that works in the interests of consumers. The ACCC does recognise there is positive progress in the electricity market leading to lower prices, recognition that our policies are working. It estimates that if its recommendations are adopted, savings for residential customers could be, by 2021, up to an average of 24%, and for commercial and industrial customers, 26%. They're savings, they're forecasting. Now, the ACCC finds that while consumers who regularly review or switch plans have benefited from competition, many have been trapped by a market that is complex, opaque and unfair. Inertia and complexity have worked to advantage the retailers at the expense of their customers. Discounts, the report says, have become misleading. There is no benchmark for consumers to judge what they're really getting, because retailers set their own inflated standing prices. The ACCC recommends the creation of a new benchmark or default price set by the Australian Energy Regulator that would provide a clear reference point for consumers. Now, discounts are offered in return for consumer behaviour, such as paying on time, but conditions that see consumers lose all of their discount for a late payment are effectively a brutal late penalty disproportionate to the cost to the retailer, and they recommend that practice should change too. The ACCC would also like to see more transparency from the private price comparator sites so that customers know what commissions are paid. Consumers have a right to know, again, putting the customer first. In wholesale markets, the ACCC finds that vertically integrated companies have been applying an additional internal premium on generation prices of between 26% and 42% on average, which they've passed directly onto their retail prices. They go on to recommend a cap on further acquisitions and mergers of 20% of generation capacity across any national electricity market region, the separation of the 2 Queensland government-owned generators into 3 independently operating competitors, and greater powers for the Australian Energy Regulator to investigate market manipulation and increased fines. In gathering evidence, the ACCC found the financing of new generation assets outside the big vertically integrated gentailers was inhibited because either commercial and industrial users were not prepared to enter into sufficiently long-term power purchase agreements, or when they were, banks were not prepared to recognise their credit beyond 5 years or so. So the ACCC has made a very interesting suggestion that where a new firmed or dispatchable generation project, which could obviously consist of several assets, has commercial and industrial customers secured for, say, the first 5 years, the Australian government agreed to acquire power at a low price, say $45 a megawatt hour, for years 6 to 15. Now, such a put, well, to use a financial term, would secure bank finance and, as the ACCC says, and I quote, encourage new entry, promote competition and enable commercial and industrial customers to access low-cost new generation. Remember, commercial and industrial customers are 2/3 of demand on the NEM. Now, we'll look further at this proposal over the coming months as we consult with the Energy Security Board, AEMO, AEMC, other jurisdictions, industry and consumer groups about the ACCC's recommendations. But this recommendation has the distinct advantage of being thoroughly technology agnostic and well designed should serve to support our goal of cheaper and reliable energy. Now, the National Energy Guarantee brings together energy and climate policy by maintaining system reliability. It requires retailers to purchase a minimum level of electricity generation that can be sent out continually or on demand, and at the same time meet an emissions intensity that enables us to meet our international commitments. As John Pearce, the chair of the Australian Energy Markets Commission, remarked last year, we're not pricing carbon, what we're pricing is reliability. Now, the guarantee will ensure investment in whatever technology the energy market needs: solar, wind, coal, gas, batteries, pumped hydro and others. It's not pro-coal or anti-coal, pro-renewables or anti-renewables. Renewables do not need to be subsidised any longer. The latest long-term contracts are coming in at less than $65 a megawatt hour. It's below the average market price today. Coal is forecast to remain 60% of our generation mix in 2030. Portraying the future as an either-or is simply wrong. The National Energy Guarantee, designed by the experts, reinvigorating markets and competition, and already contributing to lower prices by restoring confidence about the future. And it is strongly recommended by the ACCC. Energy Security Board modelling says the guarantee will deliver savings of $120 on average across the next decade, the cornerstone of an estimated expected reduction of $400. It estimates the wholesale generation price, which is where its impact will most keenly be felt, will be 23% lower. And its greatest strength is that it's focused on delivering for consumers, not arguing about technologies. Now, Andrew Richards from the Energy Users Association of Australia said it very well last month, and I quote him, "We observe that there are those who criticise the guarantee because it doesn't include explicit support for renewable energy, while others criticise it because it doesn't include explicit support for fossil fuels. It would appear that everyone is seeking a consumer-funded free lunch, and because the NEG doesn't provide it, they're critical. From an energy user perspective, we see this as a significant positive of the National Energy Guarantee as it seeks to be technology neutral, ensuring all technologies can both play to their strengths, but also requires them to manage their weaknesses." On the other hand, Bill Shorten and Labor have no plan at all other than higher prices and less reliable energy. Labor's 50% renewable energy target repeats the mistakes of the past by making technology rather than price the focus of policy. Continuing to force-feed renewables into the market through subsidies guarantees higher prices and less reliable energy. And you don't have to take my word for it. Just look to South Australia, where the households and businesses of that state suffered under a reckless renewable target that delivered blackouts, volatility, and, to rub salt into the wound, the most expensive energy in Australia. Now, Bill Shorten has adopted this as Labor's national policy. So the choice is going to be very clear at the by-elections and indeed at the general election next year. Lower prices under our technology-neutral, customer-focused National Energy Guarantee, or higher prices under Labor's reckless renewable subsidies. As ACCC Chairman Rod Sims said just this morning, only a technology-neutral approach will get prices down. Whenever governments prescribe the technology should be one thing or another, that's when you get higher prices. Now, repairing the mistakes of the past means obviously planning to ensure that renewables are reliable, and clearly that was the huge oversight neglect in South Australia. Now, Snowy Hydro 2.0 will help lay the foundation for the future of our more flexible energy system, providing a grid-scale 2,000 megawatt battery in the heart of the system, improving reliability and security across the grid, enabling new technologies to be safely integrated. I've seen criticisms of the Snowy 2.0 project because it's government-owned, coupled with suggestions it's subsidised. Some commentators have discovered that you'll need more energy to pump water uphill than it will generate downhill. You lose about 25% on the round trip. What a revelation. Snowy Hydro, I hasten to add, has always belonged to government, always. And there are not many places in our flat, dry continent where you have two existing large bodies of water near each other and 700 metres difference in elevation. The price of electricity varies from hour to hour. For example, it has a very low value in the middle of the night and a very high value indeed on a hot summer's afternoon. So as it does now for its existing pumped hydro, Snowy 2.0 will buy when power is abundant and has a low economic value, and sell when it is in high demand and thus more valuable. These trades will reduce volatility and price spikes and thus contribute to lower overall energy costs. The project is financially strong. With conservative assumptions, it shows an internal rate of return of at least 8%, and Snowy Hydro expects to fund it from its own operations and borrowings. Here in Queensland, Genex is finalising its preparations for an expansion of its existing Kidston Solar project with the addition of pumped hydro using the pit of a retired gold mine for water storage. It's a clever combination of 270 megawatts of solar, 150 of wind and 250 of pumped hydro. And among other places, there's pumped hydro being developed at Cultana in South Australia, as well as enormous opportunities in Tasmania, where there is a powerful combination of highly efficient wind assets and a large hydro scheme with 14 sites already identified. So that's what delivers lower prices, a mix of generation with a mix of qualities in a truly competitive marketplace. Now, cheap energy goes to the heart of our economic competitiveness, and that's where the simplistic economics of Labor's harsh carbon taxes or trading schemes are laid bare. You cannot adjust to the future if you cannot compete now. If you listen to our opponents, their view is apparently we have to shutter industries because of their emissions and drive them out of business by raising their energy prices. Labor has not learned the lessons of the past when it rushed to impose the highest economy-wide carbon tax in the world, which drove up prices as they intended it would. As I said in Paris in 2015, it is innovation and technology which will drive stronger growth in a cleaner environment, not heavy-handed taxes or the force-feeding of one technology or another. Now, we promised that we would take action on energy price rises. We promised that we would do everything we could to bring prices down. We have turned the corner on energy prices. Now it is time to lock in that progress with the National Energy Guarantee. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Prime Minister. Obviously, there's a lot of people in this room who would have be directly affected by this ACCC report. It's a pretty comprehensive report, all 398 pages, which I'm sure me and other people had to pore over this morning to try and get to. There's a lot of recommendations in there. I know in your speech you were talking about, you've had it for 2 weeks now, you look at some and get back to them. There's been a fair bit of pressure for a Royal Commission into electricity prices. This is a pretty comprehensive review. do you think this does enough to sort of negate the need for a Royal Commission? And secondly, obviously there's been big reviews or reports in the past, like the Henry Tax Review, and previous governments have sort of cherry-picked what they wanted for them. Do you think that you'll need to implement the majority of the 56 recommendations to take off the pressure or the call for a Royal Commission?
Well, look, I think the most important thing, as Josh Frydenberg said today, is to read the report of this inquiry before you start talking about the need for another. This is a very comprehensive study. Rod Sims has been able, using the powers of the ACCC, to literally get into the books of all of the energy companies, including the retailers in particular, has had enormous access, examined all of these issues relating to price. And so I think this report is a very comprehensive piece of work, and what we should be doing is getting on with it and working on the very useful, I think, and valuable recommendations that have been made. We received the report on the 30th of June, so we've had it for a bit over a week, about 7 working days, and Rod has met with and spoken with the state officials today. So, what we need to do now is work with our partners in the COAG Energy Council, or Josh's partners in the COAG Energy Council, obviously get a lot of feedback from industry as we work through these recommendations. But it is a really valuable piece of work. And look, I know you're probably all starting to think you'll doze off the thought of reading an ACCC report. Can I really commend it to you? It is very well written. There are parts of it that are highly technical, but most of it is really very accessible. It explains a lot about the energy market. It explains what happened, for example, with the way the Queensland generators, pushed up, gamed the system to push up the price of wholesale energy in Queensland, and what the impact was of the changes to the rules, and then following pressure from my government and the ACCC, when the Labor government here finally stopped using their generators to fleece their citizens and actually told them to engage with the market in a more fair way, a more even-handed way, and you saw a very significant reduction in wholesale costs. So all of that is set out. It's a very, very good piece of work, very comprehensive, and I just want to thank Rod for it again.
Okay, we'll throw to some questions from my colleagues soon, but obviously it's a pretty damning report. It's something that'd be fair to say that it's shown that there has been a colossal failure of the NEM in trying to keep prices down. There's a couple of key recommendations I did want to ask you to. I know your government's done a lot in relation to trying to turn the blowtorch on retail companies and their very sort of smoke and mirrors approach to offering discounts. There was a recommendation in there saying that the Australian Energy Regulator should set a sort of default price, scrapping the standing offers that a lot of power companies use and setting a default price. What are your views on that, and would that be some kind of a re-regulation of that?
Well, it's what they're not. The ACCC is not saying the government should set the price of electricity. What they're saying is there should be a default price, which is the benchmark from which discounts and deals are quoted. Because the problem is with the companies having different standard offers, your 20% discount may actually be much more expensive than my 10% discount that I'm quoting. So it's really designed to put the customer first. I think we'll obviously need to talk with the state jurisdictions about it, and indeed the industry. But you can see there that he's identified the way in which consumers are not being looked after. And in fact, as I said earlier, I'm really quoting the Treasurer, Scott Morrison, that complexity and inertia have been the retailer's ally versus the customer, because faced with a complex, confusing range of options, many people just choose to take no action at all, and that's why the comparator sites and the action we've taken, getting the retailers to remind people of the opportunities to move to better deals, have been important. I mean, saving $500 on a $2,400 a year electricity bill, for example, is a lot of money. That's a very big saving, and savings of that kind are are very available.
Just back to the original question, though, what do you support the scrapping of the standing offer and putting in this sort of default price?
I think it's a suggestion that has considerable merit, but we are going to review the recommendations carefully and discuss with the jurisdictions. But it's certainly consistent with everything we've done in terms of taking action to protect consumers and deliver for consumers. As I said, the key for every single measure, anyone who's got a bright idea about the energy sector, terrific. My question is, will this result in lower energy prices? Will this support lower energy prices? And that's the key. You've got to get, the prices are too high, we've got to get them down. They're starting to come down, but particularly at the wholesale level, it's feeding through to the retail customers. We want to see more action. Everything we're doing is aimed at that, and there have been a lot of mistakes made in the past, and we don't think we should be remaking them. So we've got to be focused on the customer. Lower prices, put the customer first. That's my goal.
Just on to another key recommendation, talking about the government underwriting long-term energy supply contracts to encourage the development of new dispatchable power generation. Obviously, if you do support that, would that include support for a new coal-fired power station, or is that something that's completely off the agenda, that if the market's not going to fund it, the government's not going to be putting any money towards?
Well, it's technology agnostic, so it certainly wouldn't exclude any fuel source. Again, we've got to stop we've got to stop focusing on one technology or another. We've got to ask ourselves, how do we get prices down? What Rod has identified, and we've heard this from other parts of the industry, is that it is challenging for people who are not part of the, big vertically integrated gentailers to get finance for new generation assets. And again, they could be a mix of assets. It could be some renewables, some gas and some hydro. It could be a coal-fired project. It could be gas. It could be biomass. Or a mixture of all of the above. And the C&I customers, commercial and industrial, are not generally, so we're told, prepared to sign up for more than 5 years. And when they do, banks are not prepared to give that the same credit, over a long term. So what Rod has suggested is, and this is similar to the reverse auction concept that we've been working on with AEMO. So this is not, this is like all of these things, it's not an entirely new idea, but it's been framed in a very interesting way. So what the government would do is say, all right, we will be, if you like, the buyer of last resort. We'll take a put, but at a low price, which would provide some security for a lender, obviously. If you've got a power project and your business model is based on selling energy at $65 a megawatt hour and you end up selling it for 45, your equity will be gone and you'll be a very unhappy, very disappointed investor. But if that enables you to get the bank finance as a bit of a backstop, that will bring on more investment. I mean, the thing we've got to make sure is that as we don't have any more of this phenomenon we've seen in recent times, where older baseload generation goes out because it's old and its owners think it's clapped out for whatever reason. We've got to make sure that we maintain the level of dispatchability. Now the NEG, by the way, is designed to do just that as well. So these two would have to work together. But the National Energy Guarantee, as you understand, is designed to ensure that we have a sufficient amount of reliable power, that's dispatchable power, so that that would mean that a retailer would have to ensure that they had sufficient firming power to back up. They had a lot of wind and solar, terrific, congratulations, but you're going to have a specific percentage of firmed generation to be able to back that up so that you can be sure to deliver reliable power.
I'm sure my colleague's going to start throwing bread rolls at me soon, but just finally on the NEG, obviously...
They could write a question on the bread roll.
That's right, yeah, exactly, I'll read it out. But there's been a lot of focus, you're talking about the National Energy Guarantee and pushing that through, and you're saying it should be technology agnostic, although a lot of your backbench seem to be quite focused, or some would say almost obsessed on coal-fired power. Park that to one side.
Well, the thing to be obsessed about in this business is lower energy prices. That should be the obsession. The customers, citizens, businesses want lower energy prices. That's what we've got to deliver.
Obviously, the ACCC has backed the NEG as the way to help solve some of the problems in the national electricity market. There's some unrest on your backbench about that. You've got to win over the state and territory governments, and a lot of the recommendations from this ACCC report require action by the state and territory, so it's a bit of a delicate balance. Would you be concerned if, when it came to a parliamentary vote, if some of your backbench crossed the floor, or are you more concerned about the end game, about the NEG passing? And one final supplementary to that, is there a plan B if the NEG goes down in flames?
Well, we're focused on putting the customers first, and the National Energy Guarantee has overwhelming support around. I've never seen an energy policy that has such broad support from, the National Farmers Federation and the Minerals Council to, social welfare groups, from energy users. I read out a quote from the energy users in the course of my speech. It has very widespread support, and I would say quietly confident that we will achieve the support for the NEG that we need, because Australians are crying out for an energy policy that is focused on them. They want politicians to cooperate, to deliver an energy policy that is focused on them, and what that means, it's focused on them paying less for energy. So lower prices. I hope I'm not sounding like a broken record, but believe me, I'm bringing all of my many years of business experience to this task. The job is to get energy prices down. That's what we've got to do. We've got to maintain reliability, got to meet our emission reduction commitments. We can do both of those. That's extremely manageable, but we must bring prices down, and that's what the market has got to start working for its customers. That's what our policies are about, and we are delivering outcomes. I mean, we're making progress. We have turned the corner, but we want to keep the good momentum in the right direction, which, as far as prices are concerned, is down.
Okay, I might throw to some of my colleagues on the media table there. If you could stand up, back straight, announce where you're from, and the microphone is yours.
So no slouching allowed, is it?
Apparently not.
Hello, Prime Minister. Thank you for your speech. Amy Ramikas from The Guardian. Just further to Mark's questions there about the NEG. The Nationals now have been quite vocal about what they would like in exchange for their support, which does include coal subsidies, whether that be through a new power plant or through retrofitting existing power plants. And I know it's technology neutral, and I know what is in the report. I just need a yes or no answer. Are you going to give the Nationals what they want?
Well, there's a whole lot of...
That's not yes or no.
No. Well, there's a whole lot of premises in your question, assumptions in your question, which I don't agree with. Can I tell you?
Agree with it.
No,
I mean, they're public about it.
Well, let me just say to you that every member of our coalition party room is committed to lower energy prices. So I recognise that there's often debates about how you get there, and interesting debates about technologies, but the object of policy is to get prices lower. And the one thing we know is that government subsidising one technology or another, as Rod Sims said today, is only going to result in higher prices. We want to be supporting lower prices. So that's what it's all about.
Prime Minister. Stefan Armbruster from SBS News. You're just talking about the free market and how it operates. You're about to sign further agreements with the Solomon Islands, Papua New Guinea cable that was announced in the budget, $136 million from the Australian side. Now that's going into the Pacific market, and it's Australian taxpayers' money that's subsidising that cable in face of competition from other operators like Vanuatu and other places. At what point do national security interests override your interest in the free market taking care of business in the Pacific in the face of China? And won't this just encourage other Pacific nations to use the China trigger to get a better aid deal out of Australia?
Well, it's a very practical form of foreign aid. So I think it's a great initiative, and I look forward to signing that with the Prime Ministers of PNG and Solomon Islands later today before we go to watch the State of Origin. But we spend billions of dollars a year on foreign aid. This is a very practical way of investing in the future economic growth of our neighbours in the Pacific. It's a very good practical example of foreign aid that's going to encourage economic growth in our region. That is what it is all about.
Prime Minister Chris O'Brien from the ABC, just a specific correlation between the report and the NEG. Do you think the ACCC report firms up the case for the National Energy Guarantee?
Yes, it does, and in fact, they say one of their recommendations, strong recommendations, is that the National Energy Guarantee should be, the development should be completed and it should be implemented. It is a key part of it. We need to bring together and integrate climate and energy policy. You know, the renewable energy target, which is obviously will be complete. It'll be complete by 2020 in the sense that the target will be met, and it will then, the price of renewable energy certificates will tail off to a very low number, if not zero. After that, target, whatever the arguments for it in the past may have been, was encouraging and subsidising a particular set of technologies without any regard to the need to maintain dispatchability or reliability, for example. So it was not part of the energy market. It was operating, as I said in my remarks, from outside the energy market. Now, you know, I'll leave the historians to debate the pros and cons of past energy policies. It's a pretty dispiriting exercise for those who want to undertake it. My concern is from here on, and since I've been Prime Minister, to focus on one thing and one thing alone, which is getting energy prices down. And we are having success in that regard. Wholesale price of gas, as everyone in this room knows, has come down considerably over the last 18 months because there's more supply. The cost of wholesale generation has come down. We've seen action taken even by the Queensland government where they gave a direction to their government-owned generators to stop gaming the system. And again, the technical details of that are all set out in the report. Prices came down. We're starting to see it at the retail level. Yesterday, the Australian Energy Regulator reduced the rate of return that the owners of energy transmission assets, poles and wires, should be entitled to receive, and that will again reduce household bills by an amount, I think between $30 to $40, the figure I recall being quoted. But the point is, we've got to just keep that relentless pressure on. I want Australian consumers of electricity, whether they are businesses, whether they are households, whether they're families, to know that everything I can do, I and my government are doing to bring downward pressure on energy prices. That's our goal. That is the test. So I'm grateful. All suggestions and ideas gratefully received. We welcome them. But the question is, the litmus test is, will this result in a lower electricity bill? And if it doesn't, then frankly, we've got to look for some other alternatives. So what we're focused on is bringing prices down. The National Energy Guarantee will bring prices down. That's what we've been advised by the Energy Security Board. The ACCC has endorsed that approach. They have other reforms which can bring down prices. That's the key. Lower electricity prices. That's the object of our policy. That's what it's all about. Making sure that we continue the good momentum we've got to lower electricity prices.
Stephen Scott from the Courier Mail, Prime Minister. There's a section in the report that's pretty scathing about the ownership structure of electricity generators in Queensland. It suggests that they should be split up and effectively a large portion of them sold off. Is that something that you'd like to see the Queensland government consider? Well,
it's actually LNP policy to split the generators up. And I welcome Deb Frecklington's leadership on that issue. But yes, you need to have a more competitive market. People who say that privatisation of energy assets, is a bad idea, should consider what's happened in Queensland, where the greatest pressure to push prices up was coming from state government-owned generators, actually gaming the system. So, it's really, you need to have, I think everywhere, a more competitive market. So yes, we would welcome a more competitive market in Queensland. State government ownership is not, privatisation is not necessary. That's a matter for the state government to determine. But the critical thing is to ensure that there is real competition and that the generators and participants in the market act responsibly and don't take advantage of the concentration they have, the market power they have, to game the system. And again, I encourage you to have a look at the report. But what is the focus? What's the objective? Lower prices.
Michael McKenna from the Australian Prime Minister. There's been a lot of talk about methods to bring down power prices over the last couple of years, and you've been quite laudatory of this report. Josh Frydenberg said we had to move on it now. Can you give us a time frame as to when you think your government can act on these recommendations, respond to these recommendations, and is it possible that if needed, legislation would be introduced in the Parliament in the next session? Well,
there isn't, Michael. Firstly, there are 56 recommendations. They don't require, at least as far as I can, for the vast majority, they don't require any federal legislation. Most of it involves changes to the National Electricity Law, which is, as you know, is essentially a COAG instrument. It actually involves changes to a law by the South Australian Parliament, is the way it operates. But that's, again, getting into the arcane business of the national electricity market. We will move swiftly, but with due consideration. It's very important to make sure that any further, government intervention, if that's the right term, is not counterproductive. I'm very attracted to the put option that Rod has proposed, because it works in a similar way to a reverse auction concept that we've been looking at with AEMO, which is another way of essentially calling for the whereby AEMO would say, for example, in New South Wales, they've forecast by 2022 a gap in dispatchable power. One way to resolve that would be for AEMO to say, we want to see bids to fill that gap, and then have in effect a reverse auction. It's a technique used in many other markets around the world, but it does require that intervention to support the bringing in of new firmed or dispatchable power. And when I say firmed or dispatchable power, just for everyone's benefit, what we're talking about is energy that's available on demand. That could be, that can be many different types. That can be coal, it can be gas, it can be hydro, it could be batteries, it could be biomass. There's no doubt others as well, but as distinct from an intermittent source like solar or wind, which for all of their, enormous attractions, particularly as they get cheaper all the time, the solar panel doesn't work when the sun isn't shining, and the windmill doesn't work when the wind isn't blowing. So that's the difference between firmed or dispatchable power and what we'd call intermittent power. So I think that's very worthwhile looking at. But the critical thing is to be technology agnostic and just focus with a laser-like focus on the customer and getting prices down for the customer.
But there's a summer coming again. It comes every year. It's pretty hot up here.
It does.
So there is urgency. There's people, there's businesses going out. They're going out of business, and there's a real, cost of living pressure. So what sort of urgency is this government bringing to it?
Well, we've had the report for 7 working days, and it's been released, and we will be responding to it in, collaboration with the states and territories. Michael, it's very important to understand that the responsibility for energy policy is shared between the various jurisdictions in the national electricity market and the federal government. And of course, Western Australia and the Northern Territory are not even part of the national electricity market.
Prime Minister, thank you for your speech. Jackson Williams from Sky News, just touching on some of the earlier questions. As we know, the report backs the NEG, which has a guarantee of reliability, but it also says government money is needed, is necessary to underwrite baseload power. Does that mean there is not complete faith in the NEG for reliable power to be delivered?
No, it doesn't mean that at all. It's a discrete observation by the ACCC about a particular problem they've perceived, and it may be that we don't need. Let's assume we were going to go down the route that Rod Sims recommends. It may be we don't have to do a lot of it, or do it for very long. It's just a. We just have to be very focused and very pragmatic about this. This is all about getting results. I mean, I came into Parliament at the ripe old age of 50 from a career in business. I'm a practical person. I like to get things done. I want to solve problems. And the problem is, right now, energy in Australia is too expensive. So we've got to make sure we get it down, get prices down, but we've also got to make sure that in our efforts to do so, we don't undertake measures that turn out to be counterproductive. So the design of all of this will be very critical, but I think the idea of a put at a low price, and it may be 45 is not the right price, maybe it's 40 or 37.5, but you want to hit that mark that would enable more of that dispatchable power to come, more of that investment to come forward. I think the NEG, I'm confident that the NEG will provide those signals in the future, but there is concern about, and I mean, McKenna's asked about the summer, but there are concerns that are, say, that's short term. There are concerns too about medium-term gaps in dispatchable power. But as I said, this should not be a debate. We've got to put the ideology and the slogans aside and just focus on getting the outcomes that deliver lower prices. That's the test. So whatever is proposed, my question is, will this help deliver lower prices? And the answer better be yes, if people want us to be paying close attention to it.
Prime Minister, thank you for your speech. Stuart Late from AAP. How strongly do you think that the regulators should be shaken up, given that they allowed this situation to occur in the first place? And if you accept that customers have been gouged, would you consider introducing a levy similar to the bank levy in the power sector?
I don't want to go beyond the recommendations that are in the report. The word gouging is not used anywhere in the report, by the way, although I see it referred widely in the media. The most important thing is that we get genuine competition in the market, that that market works for customers. There are some very practical recommendations made here. What they have recommended is that the regulator be given more powers, but there's a lot of things that need to change with the electricity market. The rule-making process, for example, is very long and laborious. That's got to be sped up. It needs to become a system that works better for customers, and the object, in case I haven't mentioned it earlier, is lower prices.
Sounds like a slogan, Prime Minister.
It's where, it's where the rubber hits the road in this business, I can tell you. That's what it's all about. That's, when I'm out and about, whether it's in Western Tasmania or Western Queensland, people are talking about energy prices being too high. And that's what they want us to get on with. And that's what we're focused on, and that's why we've got this big report done by the ACCC with their powers. It's a very good read. I encourage you. I'm not getting a commission from Rod Sims, by the way, for encouraging it. It's all free. It's all on the internet.
We've probably got time for one or two more quick questions.
Prime Minister Felicity Caldwell from Brisbane Times. The ACCC recommended the governments of Queensland, New South Wales and Tasmania should take steps to remedy their overinvestment in network businesses to improve affordability, but that this would happen with appropriate assistance from the Australian government. Are you willing to offer some support, and if so, how much money?
Thank you. Well, again, that's one of those things that that we'll need to discuss with state governments, just so that everyone knows what we're talking about. The largest factor in the increase in energy prices has not been green taxes or, the RET or feed-in tariffs, some of which were absurdly generous, and you look back with hindsight. It hasn't actually even been the cost of generation, it's been the poles and wires, nearly 40% across the national electricity market. And what happened was that the regulatory regime encouraged the owners of the poles and wires to invest in them because they got a markedly higher return on their regulated return, i.e. what they could charge the customers, than their actual cost of capital. So it really encouraged gold plating, and that is what has happened, and it's been done by state regulation, and I imagine state governments will be reluctant to come to terms with that recommendation, but it's certainly something we're happy to discuss. But it would involve, in effect, moving a cost from energy consumers' shoulders, if you like, onto taxpayers' shoulders. So again, it's something we'll have to work through with them. But we really should. We have a lot to reflect on in the way in which this gold plating of network assets was allowed to develop. And this is why, by the way, you've got to be very careful about mandating one type of investment or another, because one way or another, if you're a government, either the consumer pays for it or the taxpayer pays for it. I don't see any politicians offering to personally underwrite infrastructure investments. So, one way or another, the customer will pay or the taxpayer will pay. That's why we've got to be, again, focused on getting a result that delivers lower prices.
Okay, Prime Minister, we've probably got time for one last question.
Prime Minister Rob Morrison from 9 News. The ACCC did recommend privatising 2 of the state-owned energy generators after it was split into 3. You said privatisation wasn't necessary. Would you change that position if an LNP government won the state election in 2020, given that the words asset sales is a fantastic way to lose the election beforehand?
Yeah, well, what I was saying was a business does not need to be privately owned to operate in a pro-consumer, pro-competitive way. Obviously, from the Liberal side of politics, the LNP side of politics, we prefer free enterprise, free markets, more competition and so forth. Equally, government ownership doesn't mean that a utility will run in the interest of consumers. And I give you, Stanwell, for example, and again, all of that sorry history of that is set out in the ACCC report. You talk about gouging. I mean, that is a good example of gouging, but it was done by Queensland government-owned generators. So this was not some rapacious private company. This was a rapacious government using its monopoly position in the generation business to gouge its customers. Anyway, we intervened in respect of that conduct. The ACCC called them out and they changed their way, and you saw a significant drop in wholesale energy costs in Queensland. I think this is very much the privatising or not of assets is very much a matter for state governments, even if they're state assets, of course, and state oppositions to debate that. But the critical thing is to make sure that market behaviour is competitive. So you're right, the ACCC has recommended that the 2 be split into 3 and 2 of them be privatised. At the very least, they should be split into 3 and be genuinely competitive. That has to be the object, because again, what is their job? Their job should be to work to deliver lower energy prices for Queenslanders. Obviously, they've got to make a margin, they've got to be able to cover their costs and, fund new investment and all of those things, but they shouldn't be run as, in effect, a arm of the Queensland revenue to gouge money, super profits out of Queensland customers, which is basically what was happening.
Prime Minister.
Yep.
Sure,
Bill Slater.
Yes, that's what I was about to say. You're going to run on tonight.
No, I'm a soccer player. Conservative governments in Canberra have relied in past decades on the generosity of Queensland voters. It's usually about 2/3 of the seats in Queensland are owned by the Liberal Party and the National Party. And
well, they're not owned. Like, you know, they're owned by the people, by the voters.
That's right. Thank you.
The people who expect us to get lower electricity prices.
That's right. Well done.
Did you get that?
That's what you should be focused on. You know, it's very interesting. None of the media questions have asked about lower electricity prices. I don't recall that. That's what you get. You get out of the press gallery. You know, you get out to Charleville or Boulia, or you get down into Zeehan in Western Tasmania, where I was earlier in the week. That's what people are talking. They're not talking about politics as much as you'd like. They're talking about what the government's going to do for me. So they're going to lower taxes on my business so I can invest more and give an apprentice a start. They're talking about whether they can get a new mine going and what the energy prices were. Seriously, I was at a new mine. I was at a mine that's going to start. I was at a mine in Zeehan that's going to get started up, have 200 new jobs. What were the owners talking to us about? Energy prices.
Okay, Mickey, hurry up and ask your political question, quickly.
Yeah, anyway.
20 or 21 of the 30 seats in Queensland are held by the LNP, and this has gone back decades. Since the last election, our news poll result shows that the Conservative coalition is down 9 points on primary vote. Are you doing something wrong in Queensland since your election? What are you doing wrong, and how can you fix it?
Well, we're focused on delivering for Queenslanders, and one of the things, Michael, we're going to deliver is lower electricity prices.
You finished? No?
Yeah.
That's the shortest answer we've had all day, so congratulations. Look, we really appreciate you coming up to Queensland yet again. Can, ladies and gentlemen, please thank the Prime Minister who...
Thanks very much. Thanks very much. Thank you.
Thanks again, Prime Minister. It's been left to me to finish up proceedings here, and we do have a lucky door prize to draw. I think the bucket is coming up now. Well, Prime Minister, you're more than welcome to. Come on up.
Nobody has put a little bit of blue tack on their
Yeah, and that's it. All right. And the winner of the Civil Contractors Federation bottle of Henschke Henry 7 is...
Dr. Nicole Gillespie.
From UQ Business School.
Yep.
Thanks very much. You want to finish it up, or I'll do it?
Yeah. No, you're done.
Thank you, Prime Minister. Nicole, you can collect your prize from the registration desk staff when you exit. Once again, I'd like to thank all the naming rights sponsors, and thank you all for your attendance. If you'd like to visit the Queensland Media Club website for a visual recording of today's speech, please do, if watching it once wasn't enough. And I'm sure you're all going to go back to the office now and download the 400-page ACCC speech and pore over the same things that we were talking about today. Just finally, once again, thank our naming rights sponsors, Brisbane Airport Corporation, Civil Contractors Federation and Griffith University. If you'd like more information about Queensland Media Club season and future events, please drop your business card in the bowl at the registration desk on the way out. And thank you again for your attendance today.